They said my baby died because of my genetics. My husband believed them. His family destroyed me, divorced me, called me defective, and left me with nothing but grief. For 5 years, I carried the guilt alone until the hospital called a nurse, a mask, a secret recording. And the face I saw on that screen changed everything. My son's name was Noah. He lived for 23 hours. That is not even a full day. Not enough time to bring him home. Not enough time to watch him sleep in the nursery I had spent months decorating. Not enough time to be his mother in any real way, except to hold him as he took his last breath. I remember everything about that Thursday morning in Winston Falls, Colorado, the way the autumn sun came through the hospital window, the sound of nurses laughing somewhere down the hall, the smell of antiseptic and clean linens. I had just given birth the night before, and I was exhausted in a way I had never known, but I was happy, deliriously, completely happy. Brian, my husband, had been there for the delivery. He cried when Noah came out. He held my hand and whispered that our lives were finally complete. We had tried for 2 years to conceive, fertility treatments, hormone injections, endless doctor's appointments. And now, finally, we had our son. I fell asleep that night with Noah in the bassinet beside my bed. The nurses told me to rest. They said they would check on him regularly. I trusted them. I trusted everyone. I woke up to alarms. Doctors rushed in. Nurses surrounded his tiny body. Someone pulled me back while machines beeped and voices shouted words I could not understand. I watched them try to save him for 11 minutes. 11 minutes of chaos and prayers and screaming, and then silence. He was gone. The doctor who delivered the news was a man named Dr. Whitmore. He had gray hair and tired eyes, and he spoke to me like I was made of glass. "We are so sorry for your loss. The preliminary findings suggest a rare genetic metabolic disorder. These conditions are tragically unpredictable. There was nothing anyone could have done." Those words, genetic metabolic disorder, became the weapon that destroyed my life. Brian's mother, Elaine, arrived within the hour. She walked into the room, looked at me holding Noah's blanket, and said words I will never forget. "I warned Brian about your bloodline. I knew something like this would happen." She said it loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Nurses, other families. She wanted witnesses to my shame. My husband stood beside her. The man who had cried tears of joy just hours earlier now looked at me like I was poison. His voice cracked when he spoke. "Your genes did this. Your defective genes killed our son." I reached for him. I needed him to hold me, to grieve with me, to be my partner in the worst moment of our lives. He stepped back like I carried disease. "Do not touch me. If you have ever been blamed for something you did not do, or if you have ever been abandoned when you needed someone the most, tell me where you are watching from in the comments." I read every single one. The funeral happened 4 days later. I had not slept. I had barely eaten. My body still thought it was supposed to be feeding a baby. I had to pump milk in bathroom stalls and cry into towels because my breast did not know my son was dead. I walked into that church feeling like a ghost. Everyone looked at me with either pity or accusation. There was no comfort anywhere. Brian's sister Rachel found me in the bathroom before the service. She was 2 years younger than Brian, sharp-featured, always calculating. I had never liked her, but I had tolerated her for the sake of family peace. She appeared behind me in the mirror. Before I could speak, she spat in my face. The saliva hit my cheek and dripped down toward my collar. "Baby killer," she whispered. "You murdered my nephew with your poisonous DNA." I stood frozen. She walked out without another word, her heels clicking on the tile floor. I wiped my face with shaking hands and returned to the service to bury my son beside people who hated me. Brian's father, Gerald, gave a speech during the reception. He was a retired banker, respected in Winston Falls, and everyone listened when he spoke. "This tragedy reminds us of the importance of strong bloodlines. Some genetic lines should end for the good of future generations. We must be vigilant about who we allow into our families." He never said my name. He did not have to. Every eye in that room turned toward me. My own parents sat in the back. They were quiet people, uncomfortable with conflict. My mother reached for my hand once, but pulled away when Elaine glared at her. They left early, mumbling excuses about long drives. I watched them go and felt completely alone. Brian filed for divorce 17 days after we buried Noah. His attorney was aggressive and ruthless. He painted me as genetically defective, emotionally unstable, and financially irresponsible. The fertility treatments I had paid for with loans in my name became my sole burden. The house Brian had convinced me to put in his name became his property. The savings account we had built together vanished into legal fees. My court-appointed lawyer tried her best, but she was overworked and outmatched. The judge ruled in Brian's favor on almost everything. I walked out of that courtroom with $42,000 in debt. No home, no savings, and no family. Brian got the house, the car, the sympathy of everyone we knew. Social media became a nightmare. Former friends posted messages of support for Brian, praising his courage in moving forward after such tragedy. Comments blamed me. One woman I had considered close wrote publicly that some women simply should not reproduce. I moved into a studio apartment that smelled like mold and cigarette smoke. I worked 3 jobs to survive: coffee shop in the morning, data entry in the afternoon, cleaning offices at night. I slept 4 hours between shifts and woke up exhausted every single day. Collection agencies called constantly. My credit score collapsed. Job applications were rejected when background checks revealed my financial ruin. The tiny apartment with thin walls became my prison. I stopped talking about Noah. People became uncomfortable when dead babies entered conversations. I packed away his blanket, his unused clothes, his hospital bracelet. I put them in a box in my closet where they could not remind me every single day of what I had lost. The grief became something I carried in silence, a weight that never lifted but became familiar. 2 years after the divorce, I saw Brian's engagement announcement online. His new fiancée was a woman named Megan, pretty, smiling, no genetic baggage. They married in the same church where we had held Noah's funeral. Someone thought I would want to know. I did not. Years passed. I survived. That was all I could do. Then, on a Tuesday morning in March, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Millstone Medical Center, the hospital where Noah had been born and died. I almost did not answer. I assumed it was another bill collector using hospital records to track me down. But something made me pick up. "Is this Julia Emerson? I apologize. I have your maiden name here. Julia Reeves?" "This is she. This is Karen Nichols, hospital administrator at Millstone Medical Center. I am calling regarding your son, Noah Emerson. Are you able to speak privately right now?" My heart stopped. What could they possibly want after 5 years? "There has been a development regarding Noah's case. We have been conducting an internal investigation following irregularities in our neonatal unit, and your son's file was flagged for review." "What kind of development?" Her voice carried weight that made my hands go cold. "Not over the phone. Please come to the hospital. There are people here who need to speak with you. There has been a significant error in the original report regarding cause of death." "What do you mean, error?" She paused. I could hear her measuring every word. "Miss Reeves, we mixed up files during our investigation. Your baby did not die from genetics. Someone injected a lethal substance into his IV line while you were sleeping. We have security footage from that night." The phone nearly slipped from my fingers. "We know who killed your son. If you are still here, take a second to like this video. It helps more people hear this truth. I do not remember driving to the hospital. I must have told my manager something, must have gotten in my car, must have navigated traffic. The next clear memory is standing in the hospital lobby. The same lobby where I had last held Noah alive, with my legs threatening to collapse beneath me. Karen Nichols met me at the information desk. She was younger than she sounded on the phone, with kind eyes that held deep apology. "Miss Reeves, thank you for coming so quickly. Detective Mark Ellis is waiting to speak with you. We have a room set up." Someone murdered my baby. The words felt foreign in my mouth. "You are telling me someone killed Noah. Let us go somewhere private." She guided me toward an elevator. Her hand was gentle on my arm when I stumbled. "I cannot express how sorry we are for what you have endured. The original investigation was compromised by administrative errors. Files were misfiled. Security footage was improperly archived. We only discovered the truth when a separate investigation into medication discrepancies led us back to neonatal unit records from 5 years ago." We entered a small conference room. A detective sat at a table with an open laptop. He stood when we entered, tall, serious, with the expression of someone about to deliver devastating news. "Miss Reeves, I am Detective Mark Ellis. Please sit down." I could not sit. "Show me. You said you have footage. Show me who killed my son." He exchanged a glance with Karen Nichols. I need to prepare you for what you are about to see. The footage is clear, but the identity of the person responsible is going to be extremely distressing. I buried my child 5 years ago, while everyone told me it was my fault. My husband divorced me and took everything because he believed I killed our son with my defective genes. Whatever you are about to show me cannot be more distressing than what I have already survived. He nodded slowly and turned the laptop toward me. This is from the neonatal unit security camera. March 8th, 2:47 a.m. You can see your room here. He pointed to a grainy but clear image of the hallway outside where Noah had been. This person enters at this timestamp. Watch what happens. The figure on screen wore scrubs and a surgical mask. The body language was feminine. She glanced directly at the camera, almost checking to see if it was recording, then entered Noah's room. The timestamp showed she remained inside for 4 minutes. When she exited, she pulled the mask down briefly to wipe her face. The image froze on her features. I stared at the screen. My brain refused to process what my eyes clearly saw. Rachel, Brian's sister. The woman who had spat in my face at the funeral. The one who called me a baby killer. No. The word came out strangled. That is impossible. She was not there that night. She did not arrive until the next morning. Detective Ellis spoke carefully. Hospital logs show she signed in as a nurse using a stolen ID badge. She had access to the medication dispensary through an administrative override code traced to a staff member she had been dating at the time. That staff member is now cooperating with our investigation. She killed Noah. The room tilted around me. Brian's sister murdered our baby and then blamed me for it. We have additional evidence beyond the footage. The toxicology report that was originally filed listed metabolic markers consistent with genetic disorders, but those results were falsified. Someone with system access altered the digital records. We found the original report in a backup server. It showed lethal levels of potassium chloride in your son's system, administered directly into his IV line. I grabbed the edge of the table to stay upright. Why? Why would she do this? Karen Nichols spoke quietly. We have uncovered communications suggesting she had concerns about inheritance. Brian was set to receive a substantial trust from his paternal grandmother upon becoming a father. The trust was valued at approximately $3.8 million. If Noah had lived, Brian would have gained control of those assets. With Noah dead and your marriage dissolved, the trust terms reverted to distribution among all 3 siblings. Rachel received $1.2 million 18 months after Noah's death. She killed a newborn baby for inheritance money. My voice did not sound like my own. She murdered her own nephew so she could get paid. Detective Ellis closed the laptop. We are preparing arrest warrants now. The district attorney wants to speak with you about testimony. I need to ask, do you have a safe place to stay? When news of this arrest breaks, there will be significant media attention. The family may react unpredictably. I looked him directly in the eyes. I want them destroyed. Every single person who blamed me, who took everything from me, who called me a baby killer while the real murderer stood among them celebrating. I want them all to face what they have done. We will need your full cooperation. You will have it, whatever it takes. The arrest happened 3 days later. Detective Ellis called to tell me they had taken Rachel into custody at her home in front of her husband and 2 young children. The charges included first-degree murder, conspiracy, falsifying medical records, and fraud. Bail was set at $4 million. The news broke within hours. My phone exploded with messages from unknown numbers. Reporters found my address and camped outside my apartment building. I had to stay inside for days. Brian called on the 2nd day after the arrest. I stared at his name on my screen for a long moment before answering. What do you want? His voice was wrecked, broken. Is it true? Did my sister really kill Noah? Did you watch the news? Did you listen to the messages? I need to hear it from you. Yes, Brian. Your sister murdered our son while I slept 3 feet away. Then she spat in my face at his funeral and called me a baby killer, while you stood there and let her. I did not know. He was crying. Oh God, I did not know. I should have believed you. I should have protected you. I destroyed everything because I believed her lies. You destroyed everything because it was easier to blame me than face the truth. Your entire family made me their scapegoat while the murderer sat at your dinner table spending blood money. Silence stretched between us. What can I do? How can I possibly make this right? You cannot. There is no making this right. But you can start by telling the truth, publicly, about what your family did to me. The things they said, the way they treated me, how they celebrated destroying me while I grieved alone. All of it needs to come out. I will testify. Whatever you need. I hung up before he could say more. His guilt meant nothing now. The district attorney assigned to the case was a sharp woman named Claire Dunn. She met with me in her downtown office and laid out the situation clearly. This case is going to attract significant attention. We have the evidence to convict, but the defense will try to paint Rachel as a grieving family member who made a terrible mistake. They will minimize the financial motive and emphasize tragedy. What do you need from me? Everything. I need you to tell the jury what your life has been like for the past 5 years. I need them to understand that you were victimized twice, first by Rachel when she murdered your son, and again by the entire family when they blamed you for what she did. I need them to see the complete destruction of your life while the real killer profited. I can do that. She studied me carefully. This is also your opportunity for a different kind of justice. You have grounds for substantial civil suits against Rachel, against the hospital for negligence that allowed the cover-up, possibly against other family members depending on what they knew or should have known. I hired the attorney, she recommended, a man named Jonathan Green who specialized in wrongful death litigation. He reviewed my case with calculating precision. The hospital will settle. They know their negligence allowed a murderer access to your son. The falsified records, the administrative failures, the security oversights, all of it creates massive liability. We are looking at somewhere between 7 and 10 million from them alone. And Rachel? Everything she has. The inheritance money, the house she bought with it, all assets, plus punitive damages for emotional distress and defamation. You were publicly blamed for your son's murder by his actual killer. That is textbook malicious conduct. What about Brian and his parents? We pursue them too. Their roles in destroying your reputation and finances, combined with their public statements, make them vulnerable. I want them to feel what I felt. I want them to lose everything the way I did. His expression was almost predatory. Then let us get to work. The criminal trial began 6 months later. I sat in the courtroom every single day. I wore simple black clothing. I never looked away from Rachel, not once. I wanted her to feel my presence like a weight pressing down on her. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They showed the security footage to the jury. 12 people watched Rachel enter my son's hospital room at 2:47 in the morning and exit 4 minutes later after injecting poison into his IV line. Detective Ellis testified about the investigation, the stolen ID badge, the override codes, the falsified medical records. Medical examiners explained how potassium chloride poisoning can mimic certain genetic conditions when toxicology reports are altered. The staff member who had given Rachel access broke down on the stand, admitting he had been manipulated by someone he thought cared about him. Then came the financial evidence. The prosecutor walked the jury through Rachel's sudden wealth following Noah's death, bank statements, property records, private school tuition for her children, vacation photographs, all funded by the inheritance she had secured through murder. Brian testified for the prosecution. He looked like he had aged 15 years and 6 months. I believed my sister when she said my wife's genetics killed our son. I let her poison my mind against the woman I had promised to love and protect. I divorced her. I took everything in the settlement. I let my family treat her like a criminal, all while my sister sat at our dinner table spending blood money. The defense tried to suggest the potassium chloride was a medical error, that Rachel had been trying to help and made a tragic mistake. But the prosecution played voicemails Rachel had left for Brian about the trust fund, messages sent before Noah was even born, where she complained about losing what should be ours to some baby. When it was my turn to testify, I told the truth, all of it. The spit in my face at the funeral, the public condemnation, the financial ruin, the years of poverty and shame, the collection calls, the tiny apartment, the 3 jobs, the exhaustion, the loneliness. I told them about pumping breast milk for a dead baby while my husband's family celebrated my destruction. I told them about watching Brian marry someone else in the same church where we buried Noah. I told them about 5 years of carrying guilt for something I did not do. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder with special circumstances. Rachel collapsed when the verdict was read. Her husband walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge spoke directly to Rachel before announcing her fate. You murdered an innocent child for financial gain. Then you orchestrated a campaign to destroy his mother while she grieved. Your actions represent a level of calculated cruelty that demands the maximum penalty this court can impose. Life without the possibility of parole. Rachel screamed at me as they led her away in handcuffs. You ruined my life. You took everything from me. I stood and looked at her directly. Good. The civil suits moved quickly after the criminal conviction. The hospital settled for $8.4 million within 3 months. Their insurance company wanted to avoid a public trial that would expose every failure that allowed a murderer to access the neonatal unit. Rachel's assets were seized and liquidated. The house she bought with blood money sold for $1.6 million. Her bank accounts, investments, jewelry, everything was auctioned. The total recovery from her estate exceeded $3 million. Brian's parents settled for $600,000 to avoid trial. Gerald's speech at the funeral, where he talked about genetic lines that should end, was played in depositions. His words, meant to shame me, now revealed as inadvertent support for his daughter's murder motive. Brian signed over the house we had shared, the one I had helped pay for with loans in my name. He also assumed all the medical debt from Noah's birth and death. It is not enough, he told me at the final settlement meeting. Nothing I do will ever be enough, but I will spend the rest of my life trying to make amends. You can start by living with what you did. No forgiveness, no absolution, just live with it. The total financial recovery exceeded $12 million. After legal fees and taxes, I was left with enough money to never worry about survival again. I bought a house in a quiet neighborhood with a garden and large windows that let in morning light. I quit all 3 jobs. For the first time in 5 years, I slept through entire nights. I started painting again, something I had abandoned during the years of just surviving. I went to therapy 3 times a week with someone who understood trauma and grief. The fallout for Brian's family was extensive and public. Elaine lost her positions on 4 charity boards when her behavior toward me came to light. Gerald's business partners quietly severed ties with him. Rachel's husband divorced her and won full custody of their children. The family name became synonymous with cruelty and injustice in Winston Falls. Everyone who had posted supportive messages about Brian's courage while attacking me now had to face what they had participated in. I received letters from other women who had been blamed for tragedies they did not cause. Mothers who lost children to accidents or illnesses and faced similar accusations. They thanked me for fighting back, for proving that victims could demand justice even years later. One letter came from Megan, Brian's second wife. He told me everything. I left him 3 months ago. I could not be with someone capable of destroying another person the way he destroyed you. I am sorry for being part of his moving on while you suffered. I did not respond. But I kept the letter as evidence that truth eventually reaches everyone who needs to hear it. I started a foundation with some of the settlement money. The Noah Emerson Foundation provides legal assistance to mothers who have been wrongly blamed for their children's deaths. We help them fight back against false accusations, pursue justice against actual perpetrators, and rebuild their lives. In 2 years, we have helped 29 women prove their innocence and pursue damages against those who destroyed them. Each case reminds me why I fought so hard, why I refused to accept that Noah's death was my fault, why I demanded answers even when everyone told me to move on. If I had given up, if I had accepted their version of events, Rachel would still be free. She would still be spending blood money while I drowned in debt and shame. The 5th anniversary of Noah's death arrived on a Thursday, just like the day he was born. I went to his grave alone, carrying flowers and a letter I had written him. Your aunt murdered you for money. Your father let them all blame me. But I fought back. I made sure everyone knows what really happened. I made sure she will never hurt anyone else. I sat by his gravestone until sunset, telling him about the house with the garden, about the foundation, about the women we have helped. I will never be who I was before I lost you. That woman died in the hospital room beside you, but I became someone stronger, someone who does not accept injustice, someone who fights back. The inscription on his stone reads, Noah James Emerson, 23 hours of perfection, forever loved, never forgotten, justice served. I added that last line after the trial. I wanted everyone who visited to know that his death was solved. his killer convicted, his mother vindicated. People sometimes ask if I found peace after everything that happened. I tell them the truth. I have not found peace. Maybe I never will, but I found justice. I found vindication. I found proof that I was not crazy or defective or responsible for my baby's death. And I made absolutely certain that everyone who hurt me paid for it. Rachel will die in prison. Brian lives with shame and regret. His parents lost their reputation and their money. Everyone who celebrated my destruction watched their comfortable lives crumble. That is not the same as healing, but it is enough. Noah only lived 23 hours, but his legacy helped 29 other mothers fight back against lies. His story exposed a murderer and brought down an entire family that thought they were untouchable. That is what I think about when grief threatens to pull me under. My son changed the world in 23 hours, more than most people accomplish in entire lifetimes. I could not protect him that night in the hospital. I could not save him from his aunt's greed, but I could fight back afterward. I could demand truth and justice when everyone said to let it go. So that is what I did, and that is what I will keep doing, through the foundation, through sharing this story, through refusing to stay silent. Because somewhere out there, another woman is being blamed for something she did not do. Another mother is carrying guilt for a tragedy someone else caused. Another family is celebrating the destruction of an innocent person while the real killer walks free. Now they have somewhere to turn, someone who understands, someone who fought back and won. That is Noah's real legacy, not the 23 hours he lived, but the truth that came from refusing to let his death be buried under lies. I survived. I fought back. I won. And his killer will spend the rest of her life in a cell, knowing that the woman she tried to destroy is the reason she lost everything. If you are still watching, thank you for listening to my story. Subscribe and tell me in the comments what part hit you the hardest. And like this video, not for me, but so someone else can find it when they need to hear it most.